Well, hello, and this is James, and I'm in London's Hyde Park, sitting here recording this, just in case you weren't able to see this presentation in the WorldDMB GA in Paris at the end of October. My name's James Cridland, and if you haven't already read it, I'm a radio futurologist. I started talking about how radio's changing. It's more multi-platform than ever before, but then the media landscape is changing too, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. Loads and loads and loads of things are happening in the media. For example, the BBC iPlayer website is now available on a PlayStation 3, and already 10% of all television programmes are played through a PlayStation 3. So there's massive behavioural change. So what does this mean for radio? Well, I showed the total figures for radio listening this time last year, and you'd think these figures must have gone down since, but actually they're up. Almost, loads more people tuning in, loads more hours as well. So radio as a whole is doing really well in the UK. And this was the total amount of listening to radio on new platforms last year. This year, the internet, well, it stayed static. Listening through the TV is slightly up. Listening through DAB, significantly up. But all of this shows that radio is getting much more multi-platform in the UK as well. But multi-platform doesn't just mean different ways of broadcasting, it means different ways of hearing from our audience. Now here's an example. This is the Now Show, which is a comedy programme on BBC Radio 4. What happened on this programme is that the presenters put a simple piece of audio before one of their podcasts, asking where their audience were and what news was going on. And then, 1 week later, they turned those emails, which they got, by the way, 500, into 7 minutes of great, funny radio. Now, I'd like to play you a snippet, but unfortunately, firstly, it takes the mick out of Norwegians, which apparently we can't do anymore, but secondly, more importantly, I don't own the copyright. But there are more great ways of letting your audience create great content as well. Audioboo is a little bit like Twitter, but you use your iPhone to record little bits of audio to tell people what you're doing right now. So it's much like Twitter, but with sound. And it's got an iPhone app, and it's got a website. Now, at the conference, I played a couple of clips from here. One person who sounded a little bit too much like Alan Partridge, and one person who sounded absolutely fantastic. Really crisp, clear audio. He was actually walking through a park with his kid, with ice cream around his kid's face, and you could hear the crunch of the leaves underneath as he was walking. It was brilliant, crisp, clear radio, I called it. The guy has nothing to do with radio, he actually runs a cafe. But I reckon that that audio is good enough for broadcast. It's crisp, it's clear, and it's great content. Now, it's in an iPhone right now, but imagine if Audioboo, or something like it, was in a hybrid radio. A radio that used DAB or FM for the audio, but the internet for the return path. Imagine what interesting things we could do then. Here's something else that could make great content for you, but this time for your website or for your additional broadcasts on DMB. So who remembers US Airways Flight 1573? This was the one. This was the first picture that we all saw. It was posted on Twitter. But isn't this picture just as part of the news as the audio? Well, radio can do this too. Now, this was a news story in Nottingham in the UK, shown on the Sky News television channel. But look where the pictures were from. A listener uploaded this video to the Trent FM website. He shot it on his mobile phone, and Trent FM then gave it to the other news sources as well. He uploaded it to Trent FM because, of course, he was closest to that media than any others. Now, you're probably asking, are pictures radio? Well, let's just remind ourselves of the multi-platform nature of radio. One of the most obvious things about some of these new radios is the big colour screens. And in fact, on these new devices, we've really got to avoid music looking really brilliant, but radio looking a bit 87.5. So on this colour screen, we can send useful and entertaining information that makes radio even better on these types of devices. We can make radio look great on your MP3 player, your mobile phone, or your kitchen radio as well. This is a concept from Frontier Silicon, now available, I think, in the Venice chipset. But you can also make radio look pretty useful on the television as well. This is my television at home in my kitchen. And remember that people in the UK listen to radio via their digital TVs twice as much as they do on the internet. And this is the iPhone app that Global Radio have written for their radio stations. This is showing Capital at the moment, and as you can see, it looks a lot better and a lot more helpful than 87.5. Global delivers millions of visuals a month through this application, and listener feedback has been immensely positive. And it's a consistent experience too, because this works the same on the iPhone or on a Nokia or on this handheld DAB radio. Okay, well, I then broke for time for a very difficult music quiz, which you needed pen and paper for. Now, of course, I don't own the copyright to Guns N' Roses Knocking on Heaven's Door, but that was the track that I played. I asked people what it was, and of course everybody got it. But nobody actually spelt Guns N' Roses correctly. That is how you spell Guns N' Roses, not Guns A-N-D Roses, or Guns ampersand Roses, or Guns apostrophe N apostrophe Roses. So loads of people got it wrong. And the point about all of this is that there are, in fact, 413 different ways of spelling Guns N' Roses Knocking on Heaven's Door. And every single one of those 413 ways looks different to a computer, which is no good if you're trying to grab additional content for what you do on radio on new platforms. So, when we are talking about something like Guns N' Roses Knocking on Heaven's Door, it's really important that we all mean the same thing, which is where web-scale identifiers come in. You see, there's a big database called Music Brains, which contains loads of details about every single music artist, and the ID that it gives Guns N' Roses is this memorable one. And if everybody uses this, then you can start to link your data with other people's data to enhance what you're doing on the radio or on other places as well. So here's the BBC Music website. It's linking their information on Guns N' Roses to Wikipedia, to their own blog posts, and to links to the rest of the web. And all because the ID that the BBC now uses is the same Webscale ID as loads of other people use. It means that everybody can actually grab loads more content. If we all use that same ID, it'll make it much easier to produce additional information to our audience when we broadcast radio, like, for example, when we're using additional data to radio using the web or using DAB. There is a squirrel over there, and it's really putting me off. This is part of the technology that we need to agree on, and already we're seeing the real fruits of agreeing on technology and competing on content. This is the Pure Sensia radio that was shown off at the GA, and part of what the Sensia has in it is a little bit of simple technology called radio DNS. And what radio DNS does is it links broadcast radio with the internet. It enables hybrid receivers to augment the listener experience. It's very nice, and it's free, and it's open, and there's the website address. But what's interesting about radio DNS is that the technology has been agreed on by loads and loads and loads of people. Just like DAB, it's open technology. The specifications are available to download today from radiodns.org. It's a prime example of agreeing on technology and competing on content. So as you saw at the beginning of this presentation, in spite of everything, radio is in really good health. And all of us who are listening to this presentation right now can agree to continue to secure radio's future if we agree on technology and we compete on content. I'm James Cridland, thank you for listening, and I'm now off to find myself a warming cup of coffee and maybe shelter from the rain that has just started to come down in London. Have a good day.